Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to RawKnux podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe.
In Calgary, fourth line guy, there was no car deal. You could go to the grocery store. Nobody knew who you were. Like, you'd go to the
Fourth line guy, no car deal.
No car. You'd go to season ticket holder stuff and the big events. And, like, some of these oil and gas guys are making double, triple what you'd make in the NHL. And it just felt like everyone at the time in Calgary was making good money. And being a Calgary Flame was it was fun. It was good. It was a great city, great fans, but it wasn't Montreal.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
I'm alive. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town.
Paul Byron, welcome to the RawKnux podcast. Tim and I are grateful that you joined us today. Really appreciate it. Your career, I got to tell you, I didn't know much about you, to be honest with you. I was doing the radio here in Montreal, and I remember the flash come across, Canadians pick up Paul Byron. And I'm thinking, who's Paul Byron? And honestly, and we were talking about it, I was talking about it with my partner Campbell, and he said, yeah, I don't really know much about Paul either. And I said, yeah, I'm probably going to end up in the American League, blah, blah, blah. The ignorance of me at the time, because I hadn't heard of you. How happy were you that you knew at that point you were going to Montreal? Obviously growing up close to here, and close to Ottawa, between Ottawa and Montreal. How happy were you to find out you were coming to the Canadiens?
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I mean, looking back now, it's it still brings a smile to my face. Being so close to home. I was living out west. My son was 1 year old. My daughter was 2 at the time. I couldn't be any happier to get the news that we were going to Montreal. I mean, even now, my heart races. I get goosebumps thinking about it a little bit. I was coming off, 2 pretty big surgeries in Calgary, and being put on waivers was crushing. Seriously, the day before, probably one of the lowest that I've felt in my career. When you're 23, 24, you haven't earned it yet. You're digging. You're going through the minors. That's all normal. The highs and lows there were good, but when you finally feel like you established yourself in the team, you've created a role for yourself, you feel like you make the team better. They know that, you know that. When they gave me the news, it was crushing. And then the next morning, it was 10 a.m. Mountain Time in Alberta. The team was going through a warm up. Get the call. Hey, you got to go up and see the GM. I already kind of knew that I was leaving, and I was trying my best to hold back the smile. I didn't want to be disrespectful to them, but I couldn't be any happier to go to Montreal, play for that team, be close to my family, be close to my wife's family. It was a dream come true. Seriously, getting picked up that day, and I'll never forget it.
Did you have a hatred towards the Flames right away? Were you hoping to play them and kind of a fuck you, pardon my language?
No, I wouldn't say I had hatred to them. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely excited to play them. It's you check the calendar, when are we going to Calgary? And it was I don't know, game 10 or game 11, an early trip out west. And I was definitely pretty motivated for that game, but there was no hatred. There was no animosity. I get it as a player. There was other players on the team. They thought that they didn't want to lose. Maybe they could sneak me through. They had talked to me the day before. They said that they weren't going to send me to Stockton. They kind of knew I wasn't really ready to start game 1 of the year. So it wasn't a mean thing or oh my God, these guys fucked me over. But I was definitely motivated to play that game against Calgary and show them that, oh, you guys made a big mistake and you're going to pay for this one.
Well, you certainly did, and you opened some eyes here in Montreal, me being one of them. But it all started, obviously, back in Gatineau. You played junior in Gatineau in the Q, and then you're drafted by Buffalo. Your draft year, 07. Were you expecting to be drafted, and did you go to the draft?
I didn't go to the draft. I wasn't expecting to be drafted, no. The year before, I was playing junior B as a 16-year-old, so it's I mean, it's a pretty good league in Ottawa. We have Ottawa U, we have Carleton, we have Algonquin College, all relatively close. So the league's pretty strong. You know, there's a lot of good players at the time that were more school focused, and practicing once a week, one game a week made life a lot easier for those guys. So, you know, the league was good, but I mean, you're playing junior B hockey. 16 months fast forward, you're not thinking, hey, I might get drafted in the NHL. I was 5'8", 135 pounds my draft year, tiny guy. I know the game was kind of on the way to being changing. It was evolving. Buffalo was really good. They had Briere and Drury and Pominville and Derek Roy. So, like, the league was really changing, but it was still pretty early. It was 2007, maybe 2 years after the rules had changed. I had no idea I was going to get drafted. I didn't want to, you know, go down to Columbus and kind of be let down. So I decided to stay home in Ottawa. I was at a cottage, and, you know, I got some great news the next day and couldn't have been any happier to go to Buffalo.
How much of a hurdle was being like, because I when I played, you're talking about how the game changed. I kind of was during the time when, like, you almost, you know, being 5'8" was definitely an issue. I mean, was that an issue for you as far as, you know, climbing the ladder of, like, you know, every level?
I think so. Part of why I never thought I'd get drafted is probably because as a kid growing up, like, everyone's telling you, hey, you're never going to make it. Oh, you're too small here. You're going to wait till Pee Wee, wait till contact hockey. It was like every year there was something. And I felt like I always had a pretty big chip on my shoulder to prove people that, yeah, I'm small, but I'm not just one of those small skill guys. Like, I can play hard, I can play gritty, I can hit guys, I can go in corners, I can go in front of the net. You know, you're going to cross-check me, I'll cross-check you back. I felt like I always had that attitude, that personality. I played lacrosse as a kid, and you know, we'd go to Akwesasne and go to, you know, down to Toronto and play these rough teams in lacrosse. So I felt like playing hockey after was kind of easy, to be honest. Like, physically, I never felt too intimidated on the ice. But every step, every level of the way, like, you always have your doubters, and, you know, at one point you just kind of get used to it, and you don't even really pay attention to them anymore.
So you start there in Buffalo, you're in Portland with the Pirates for a bit, then you end up in Calgary, you're with the Heat in the AHL, Abbotsford. You know, you get 22 games in 2011, 2012 with Calgary, then back to Abbotsford, and then back up to Calgary. You were up and down a little bit with them. How frustrating was that for you? And how did you reconcile with, listen, I'm going to keep going here, and I'm going to make a place for myself and play in the NHL? That up and down all the time, that can be a pain in the ass, right?
I think the most frustrating part, honestly, was probably living in the hotel. It's like, you look back how many days I spent living in the hotel. I couldn't even count one. You know, I can't even count, like, hundreds of days over those years. Like I said, I had a young family, so that made it tough. But you know, as a 6th-round pick, I got traded to Calgary. Like, nothing's ever given in the NHL. Like, I wasn't frustrated by, I can't make my place. Like, it's hard to get to the NHL. It's hard to take a job. You know, every year the GM tells you, oh, yeah, there's spots open, and if you have a great camp, we'll make room. It's like, you know, there's 14, 15 guys on one-way contracts. They're all getting paid money. It's like, it's really hard to come in and steal a person's job. So I never felt frustrated by that. I always kind of took it as, well, these are always opportunities. Every call-up was an opportunity. And you just got to convince the coach that you're reliable, that he can count on you, that you can be great every day. And it took a while for me to do that, but I never felt frustrated by it. I always felt like every time I got called up, like, I believed I could play in the NHL. Like, I believe that I can get to that point one day, and it's just going to take the right person at the right time to believe in me. You know, like, how many teams had a 5'9", 160-pound player playing fourth line? Like, nobody. But to me, it was like, if you need me to play fourth line, I'll play fourth line. I can kill penalties. I can give you 10, 11 energy minutes a night. Guy gets hurt, I can move up in the lineup, or you need a couple momentum shifts after a goal, whatever. Like, I always felt like if I can do that for the team, like, it's going to take the right coach to see that in me, and finally happened with Bob Hartley. But before that, you know, it was tough playing for Brent. I think, you know, we had that old Western mentality. You needed your big bruisers on the fourth line, and I never felt like he had much confidence in me that I could play as a bottom six player.
No, those are good points. It's like, it's hard. It's one thing to get there. It's another thing to stay there, at least for guys like us. I remember in Winnipeg, I didn't get I finally got like a letter in like mid-December that was like, you can get an apartment now. And I knew I was like staying for the year. When did you know? Was there a moment for you when you knew you were kind of here staying?
I felt like for me, it was probably the same as you when I got that kind of letter. Hey, you've made the team. So the 1 year, the year before, I guess I broke my hand. So it was the lockout year, 2012. I broke my hand in my first game being called up. It was like my first game playing center. I got to play with like Iginla and Curtis Glencross or Tanga or something like that. And I got, broken hand, high stick in the eye. I was hurt for 8 weeks. I had to get a second surgery in my hand. Jay Bouwmeester gets traded, Iginla gets traded, Kiprusoff retires, so the team went into like this crazy fast rebuild right away. And then the next year, it felt like the team was like ready to move on from you. Like, oh yeah, you're 24, you've played 4 years, like we kind of know you're an up and down guy. We don't think you're an NHL player anymore. This is our offer, take it or leave it. And if you don't take this deal in 4 or 5 days, like, we're going to replace you essentially. I got a call to go play in Switzerland, pretty good contract, 2-year deal, more than I'd make in the NHL, and I had a tough decision to make. I called my American League coach. I kind of talked through everything, and he said, just come play for me. Come start the year. There's 30 other teams watching you every night. Like I believe in you. You're going to be my best player. Come play for me. And I said, okay. I trusted him. Went out, I played 22 games in the American League, had a great start. They called me up to reward me for playing well, having a good attitude, all that stuff, but they told me, you're just going out west, you're never going to play, and we're going to send you down after the weekend. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. At least they're being honest, And we lose 5-0 to Anaheim. We had that crazy Honda curse, couldn't win there for 25 years. Next night's in LA, and Bob puts me in. I played, I think, 5 minutes that game. 2.5 minutes on a penalty kill and had an assist, and I never played another American Hockey League game.
That's awesome.
And it's funny how that went, and I lived in the hotel probably 30 days. They don't count the road days. Then they tell you, you're going to stay in the hotel. So that second time they gave me that letter was probably like February by that point. That's when I finally felt like, okay, I think I made it now. But then you go into summer, the Flames didn't qualify me. I was a free agent, and one of the teams interested in me was actually Montreal. They offered me a 2-way deal, and Calgary had a 1-year one-way deal, so I took the Calgary offer, and even going into that camp, it was like I felt like I was on the team, but I felt like they did everything to kind of show me that, hey, your spot's not secured. You better be ready to play, and luckily I was, and that was it. I never went down again.
So you played those 2 years, 2013-14. 2014-15 Calgary. Then they waive you. And you talk about a coach believing in you that you can help a team. You come to Montreal. How long did it take you to convince, who was the coach? Was it Terrien?
Yeah, Michel Terrien.
Yeah, Michel. How long did it take you to convince him to believe in you as a player?
Honestly, I don't think it took very long. I think he had a pretty good relationship with Bob Hartley. I think they talked. I think he kind of knew what he was getting. But, you got to prove it firsthand. And I'd say the best thing that happened to me coming to Montreal was we started the year on like a nine-game win streak or something like that.
I remember that.
And instead of being forced to play right away and having to kind of prove it right away, it gave me 2-3 weeks of practice time to get comfortable with our system here. It was a bit different. Get comfortable with the guys. Get more reps in, get to practice. That summer before I had the big wrist surgery, so I didn't start skating until September 11th. I had a pretty big screw in my wrist, and I had the hernia surgery. So that time gave me a lot of opportunity to prove to him day in day in practice that I compete every day. I'm ready to play every day. Snap a finger, you put me out there, and maybe a few games of the year I felt like he started trusting me right away. He wasn't shy to move guys up and down the lineup. He used to juggle like crazy. He had these hunches that you could watch a guy in warm up or watch him in morning skate, and he knew right away. He knew if you were going to have a good game, a bad game, and for me that played into my favor. I got a lot of good opportunity with him, and I was super lucky to go from him to Bob, and being that third, fourth line guy, and at the snap of a finger third period, I need 2 shifts, and that was enough for me to just go out there and do something for the team, and it was pretty cool.
Well, certainly Michelle, coaching here, he had his he had his good times, he had his bad times, no question about it. And playing for him, and playing for all these different coaches, and you having to prove yourself, no question. And you get here and you do it. What I guess what was the biggest surprise for you when you came here to Montreal? What's the biggest thing you had to kind of deal with? You know, Calgary, smaller town, great city and all that, but coming to MTL, it's a little bit different. What was the challenge for you coming here?
Probably just dealing with how big the Canadians are. It's like you hear about stuff, like you know about the media coverage, you know about the double language stuff, but in Calgary, fourth line guy, there was no car deal. You could go to the grocery store, nobody knew who you were. Like you'd go to the
fourth line guy, no car deal.
No car. You'd go to season ticket holder stuff and the big events, and like some of these oil and gas guys are making double, triple what you'd make in the NHL. And you know, it just felt like everyone at the time in Calgary was making good money, and being a Calgary Flame was you know, it was fun. It was good. It was a great city, great fans, but it wasn't Montreal. Like that first night I got to Montreal, I went to Coup de Cheval, had a steak, sat at the bar, and it's like the bartender knew exactly who I was. He knew my stats. He knew I came from Calgary, and I was like, whoa, this is different. Like I haven't even played a game yet. Like how does this guy know who I am? You know? And everywhere you go, like people recognize you. You have to be cognizant of everything going on around you. Everyone knows who you are. I mean, you're representing the Montreal Canadiens, and it took a little while to get adjusted to that. I'd say you go to your media scrum, and there's not just 10 people, 15 people anymore. It's like feels like hundreds of people, and it's like there's the English group, the French group, then you have, you know, the big media, and then you have all these side media, and it just feels like it never ends here. So that took a little bit of an adjustment period.
Yeah, I was gonna say try playing in Atlanta. You could hear like a guy coughing, a guy sneezing in section 300. And then we went to Winnipeg. Same thing though, but it was just like then you get to Winnipeg and everyone's just you couldn't go to the grocery store. But that's pretty cool. It's definitely a good change for sure.
So, Paulie, you know, one of the things early in my career, I remember I was having a tough time. And one of the things I noticed about you is your attitude. You got a great attitude. You've always portrayed that, watching you on the ice, on the bench, whatever. I remember my first year, I had a couple fights. I was having a tough day, and the coach skated me into practice. Next day I came into practice. I was pissed, and I wanted everybody to know I was pissed. I had a bad attitude. And I remember skating around, Bob Gainey, the captain, and thank God for his leadership and his friendship. But he come up to me and he said, "What the fuck are you doing?" I said, "I'm fucking pissed at him. He skated my balls off yesterday. I had 3 fights the night before. My body's killing me. Can't he recognize that?" He said, "Listen, you're going to have these times, but lose a fucking attitude because, Chris, you don't understand how it's affecting other people out here. You got to understand that." And he told me that. I kind of bit my lip on it, and he took me out for a beer afterwards, and we had a long talk, which helped me immensely. So attitude, where does that, because again, attitude, it does go through other people. If you have that negative attitude, it just affects everybody else. But where's that attitude come from, that mental toughness, you know, not being that biggest guy? Where does that come from?
Well, it's like that kind of like, I'd say that mental toughness, like that attitude side, I'd say I always had that. Like I said, I had that chip on my shoulder, the being a good teammate and all that stuff. Like I feel like that really kind of changed in junior. You know, I wasn't drafted to the Q. I wasn't nobody. And I felt like every single year, like if you step out of line in junior, like my coach didn't care how good you are. He didn't care who you were. He would trade you the worst spot in the world just to send you a message, you know, and to be like, you know, like this is not acceptable. And he kept me kind of on my toes every single day. Like he held me accountable every single day, so that by the time I got to the pro level American League, same thing. Like you're a nobody. Like they can send you to the East Coast, they can terminate your deal. Like I felt like I was never in a place that I could be any other way. You know, like I always wanted to be the, you know, best version of myself and get to the NHL. And like I just didn't want to screw it up by having a shitty attitude. So I have to give credit. I'd probably say to my junior coach Ben Grew, and he made me kind of the person that the player I was, and it was super important to have that kind of coaching in junior, because I think it's easy once you get drafted, you're a good player, you're putting up the points, it's easy to start having a bad attitude. But it's so trivial compared to the NHL. Like, just because you're good in junior doesn't mean anything. Like, there's so many steps you have to go. There's so many good players you have to pass. And just because you get a cup of coffee in the NHL doesn't mean anything. Like, every single day you have to prove yourself. Every single day there's someone who wants to take your job. It's, like I said, it's hard getting in the NHL, and it's hard staying. Like, the pressure to win, the pressure of draft picks, the pressure of free agents, pressure of everything, just it comes at you every single day. And if you're not ready to step up and work every day, then it's probably not the league for you.
Clearly you led by example. Did you ever see yourself becoming one of the captains of the Canadiens, and what did that mean to you?
I mean, it meant a lot. Did I ever see it? Like, to be honest, probably not. No. I always felt like I had that kind of, going to the fight, and I brought my work boots every day, but to think, hey, you're going to be an assistant captain of the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, like I said, I never would have thought that. When Berge and Claude called me in and told me, I was like blown away. Like, I thought I was getting in a meeting, I was getting in trouble or something, like, oh my God, I'm getting called down to the coach's office. This is big. Like, what did I do, So it was a pretty special moment for me, and to wear a letter for a few years here and be, leader under Shea was amazing.
Yeah, it's funny to have that responsibility, and you obviously showed that you were capable of handling that, and certainly leading by example the way you played in the ice. It's funny, one year when I was in New York, Michel Bergeron was the coach. He came in exhibition season. He came in the room. I come in to get ready for the game, and there's my jersey hanging up, and it has a C on it. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "You're captain tonight." I said, "I don't want to be captain. Okay, I don't want to be captain tonight. Don't do that to me. Just no, you're a captain. That is it. You're going to be captain tonight." I said, "No, I don't want it." He said, "Well, too bad." So I go in the game, and certainly something happens right off the hop. I end up in a scrum with someone, and then I get the extra 2 minutes, and Rob Schick was the referee, and I get in an argument with him. I told him to fuck off. He kicks me out of the game. So Bergie comes in afterwards. He said, "What the fuck? I'm making you captain and you get kicked out the game first period." I said, "I fucking told you I don't want to be captain." And it's just, listen, it comes with an enormous amount of responsibility. And not that I couldn't handle it. I just didn't. Come on, a guy who's fighting all the time to be a captain I just didn't think it was good for the team, to be honest with you. And I convinced him that night, so I never had it again. I'm glad I didn't. But it's certainly a credit to you and your personality and who you are as a player. So your time here with the Habs, and one of the things you had to deal with certainly a lot is injuries during your career, not being the biggest guy and playing a tough game, not a turn the other cheek game. You had 2 seasons, 81 games, 82. Scored 20 goals both seasons. Awesome. And then it kind of tails off. You started getting some injuries, that wear and tear. How difficult always having a bond? You feel like you're getting there. After those 2 seasons, come on, you must have felt like, listen, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And then dealing with the injuries. How difficult was that on you mentally?
It was really hard, honestly. People always assume like the physical side of the injuries is what's hard, but I think it's the mental side that makes it really, really challenging. Especially when you're coming back and you get hurt again. It's like going through the rehabs, going through that mental grind of trying to catch up to everybody, going through like hot and cold streaks, like when you get to play 80 games, like hot and cold streaks, they come and go and they kind of even out. Like when you miss 20, 30 games and it takes you 5 games to get back into the rhythm and then something happens or you're just fighting it every night, it's really challenging. It's hard mentally because you want to be the best version of yourself. You want to be healthy. You want to help your team. You want to be on the ice. Like, you know, it would kill me watching the games in the press box or down in the dressing room and seeing our team lose by a goal, or, you know, seeing something on the ice and you're like, man, like if only I was out there. Like it sucks. Like it sucks missing games. Like you hate it. And you know, I was pretty lucky to have those few years of being injury free. But you know, I had the sports ring in Calgary. That's probably when I initially hurt my hip, when I was 24, 25, and when I, you know, hurt my knee, and then other stuff in my body started to go, all that compensation finally caught up to me. It was really hard. Like the COVID years were hard. The travel was always hard. You'd wake up and you'd be so sore after games some days, and you got to go back to work. You got to go to practice, and you don't always want to do that. Like you just want to sleep, you want to rest, recover, but you know you have to practice to be good. It's like, you know, you're getting torn by two sides. You know, it was challenging a lot of days. Like you wake up and, you know, you take a couple Advil and you just got to go out there and go back to work. But, you know, it was challenging. It was really challenging.
This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. We all know how easy it is to get swept up in the fast pace of life. So much so that we forget about ourselves. It happened to me. And most of you know I've battled addiction and have been clean and sober for years. I thought I could confront these issues on my own. I couldn't. I've become a big believer in the positive impact of therapy. It helped me to learn positive coping skills and how to set healthy boundaries. It actually empowered me to be the best version of myself. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, I suggest BetterHelp. It's entirely online, it's convenient, flexible, and you can arrange everything to fit your own schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And quite frankly, I wish BetterHelp was around when I was looking for help. It's so easy and flexible. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/RawKnuckles today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/RawKnuckles. If you could look back on, you know, all your years in hockey, pro hockey, what was probably the most challenging moment for you, and how did you overcome that?
I don't know. Most challenging moment. I think the waivers one was big, but that kind of fixed itself up the next day. I'd say that whole day, that 24-hour process was mentally one of the hardest. Then at the end, I'd say like that COVID year, I think we just signed Cole. I was at a point like I could barely walk. Like I'd play a game and like I couldn't even go to bed after games. Like it was like the pain was so bad in your hip. Like it was like I couldn't sleep, I couldn't move. Every time I twisted and turned, I was waking up all night. So then you'd wake up, you'd sleep like 3 hours, and like, you know, it was hard to practice. Like it was hard to just get yourself in the position to practice because you just felt so bad. When we finally, I think it was one of the last games in Calgary, like I said, like I almost broke down in tears to the trainer. Like I can't, like I just can't anymore. Like and you know, we were lucky we had Cole, we had this young kid full of energy. I'm like watching him just fucking go down on Charlie and snipe on him top corner, and I'm like, God damn, like you got to get this guy in the lineup. Like this guy's gonna help you right now, you know, and so that kind of made it easier having him there who could go in and then just step in and help the team win. Like it took him a couple games, but once that kid started scoring, man, he was incredible. And then the playoffs, you're playing the Leafs. You know, I got an injection done right before playoffs. So the first game or two, I felt pretty good. Then that stuff wears off so fast. It's like every game from that point on, you're just kind of in well, this is do or die. Just got to do it one more time. Just got to do it one more time. Just got to do it one more time. And as the playoffs went on, I'd say mentally it got easier because now it's like you're not just fighting, Game 5 against the Leafs, Game 6. Now it's like, oh my God, we're in the conference finals. Oh my God, we're in the Stanley Cup finals. You're not even thinking about your hip anymore. It's just, it was one of the highs of the moment. But I'd say that whole year, mentally getting ready to play every day was really tough.
Yeah, I can certainly.
So did you score that goal from your knees, that breakaway? You were injured?
Well, that game I felt pretty good because I'd just done the hip injection.
It hadn't worn off yet.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It hadn't worn off yet, so I had some extra jump in that game. Yeah.
That goal was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, there's no question about it. That goal is amazing, and what a huge goal for this team. Like going into the playoffs, let's face it, that year going in the playoffs, Paul, you couldn't have been all that confident as a group, right? I mean, what was that? What was the feeling like? You're playing Toronto, and then you get in the hole 3-1. Yeah, I get it. The overtime goal, make it 3-2. But when do you think it changed, that mindset in that room that, hey, listen, people better start to take us seriously because we're on a roll here.
I honestly, like, I know people didn't have much confidence in us on the outside.
They didn't.
But I think as a team, we had a lot. Like, I felt like we just had to get to the playoffs. Like, we had the best goalie in the world. We had 4 big defense, 3 of them mean as hell, and then Jeff was a great complimentary D. We had, Corey Perry on the 4th line. I mean, we had me and Lehkonen playing 3rd and 4th line. Our first line was like a great defensive line that could score. We had, Cole and, Cole came later. We had Nick on our second line, was a great young center. So as a team, I felt like we had a lot of good players. And our team was kind of built to play a playoff hockey, but the hardest part was getting there. Like, we had a hard time getting there, and we barely snuck into the playoffs. So I know people didn't really like our chances. Toronto had a great regular season. First game, it was a weird game with Tavares getting hurt, and we snuck a win out there, and then we go down 3-1. But it felt like when we were losing, like, we were kind of like just slowly kind of physically wearing them down a little bit. And then for us, it was like, we just got to win Game 5. We go back to Montreal. They're finally letting, I think it was 2,500 fans or 5,000 fans in. We're like, if we get to Montreal, we're winning the series, right? We kind of knew that Toronto had the seeds of doubt. We knew that they lacked confidence. And that Game 5, that closeout game, you could sense, like, the pressure was on them, and they just felt different. So when Nick scored that overtime goal, we knew. Like, we knew we're winning Game 6, and then when we won Game 6, it was like the series was done. Like, the Game 7 was a weird game. Like, we just knew we had won the game already. It was like the mental part was done, and from there we just went on a crazy run because it gave our team so much confidence going forward. It was like, wow, we figured out how we need to win. We figured out what everyone needs to do, and everything just kind of fell into place at the right time.
Do you have any preference? And I know I always say it, the home team has all the pressure. The visiting team certainly has nothing to lose. And in that series, going in there, Game 7, you said you knew you're going to win. You still have to put it there, and you don't know what you're going to face when you get there. But would you rather play Game 7 on the road or at home?
I think there is more pressure on the home team. Like, I think as the road team, it doesn't matter how you do it. You just got to do it. But at home, it feels like you got to kind of please the crowd, right? Like,
yeah,
it feels like the expectation, especially if you're the home team, you're the favorite to win the series. Like how can you lose Game 7 at home? And I feel like that kind of plays in that pressure part. And we talked a little bit with Carey. Carey had played, I think, Game 7 against Boston. I think he had won the Game 7, and that's what he said was, it felt easier, like there was way less pressure on you being the road team. Like, you could just play a simple game, and it definitely worked in our favor.
It's funny, Ray Bork, we had him on, and Ray said, I mentioned about Game 7s, I'd much rather be on the road game. He said, not me, I'd rather be at home. I said, I just think the pressure, and you see so many Game 7s go the other way on teams that are playing at home. And anyway, yeah, it was awesome. So you move on, you go to Winnipeg, and God, you sweep Winnipeg. I want to know what you thought about that hit. Scheifele on Evans. Now, I wish the guy, to be honest with you, I wish he just owned up to what he did. He said he was trying to stop a goal. He was trying to, believe me, I would have done the same thing. I remember playing against the Bruins. If I saw Ken Linsman coming around the net like that, I'd want to clean his clock. And I wouldn't care. And back then, it wouldn't have been a problem. It was a problem now. But what did you think of that hit? How, like, it was dirty.
I mean, no doubt it was dirty. I mean, you played the game. We've all played the game. Like, there's no way you're trying to prevent a goal.
Yeah.
Like, it's playoff hockey, and you're trying to hit, and you hit to hurt, and it's like, that's what playoff hockey is. Like, I know people might not really like it, but like, when you go down 3-4, 5-1, and the game's kind of over, out comes the lumber, man. Like, it's cross checks. You finish every check. Like, the game's not over, if that makes sense. The score might say it's over, but every chance you have to hit a guy, you're hitting him. Every time a guy skates by, you're giving a whack, because if you take a penalty, it doesn't really matter. You kill the penalty, but you wanna wear the team down. You want to physically, beat them up a bit. And he was a little bit frustrated that game. I think our big D got to him. They were playing him hard. They were whacking him, cross-checking him. Every time he touched the puck, we were on him, and you could sense the frustration in his game. And when Jake rounded the net, there's no way that he wasn't trying to hit to hurt. And like you said, he should have just owned up to it. And I don't think he's a bad person or a dirty player by any means. Like, he's played in the league a long time. Like, I don't think he's done stuff like that ever before. But at the end of the day, you have to take accountability for your hit. And we were all pretty pissed by the hit. But the best way we could avenge Jake wasn't by beating up Mark. It was, you know what, you're gonna watch every game as your team loses, and it motivated us like hell to go out there and win every game and not let that guy a chance to get back in the series.
What do you, being a Winnipeg guy, you Montreal, like, I get it, what you're saying, but what is he supposed to say? What, like, in the, you know what I mean? Like, if they ask him, like, oh, I was trying to decapitate him? Or, like, what do you mean own up? And I'm, like I said, I'm just.
You asking me a question?
Yeah, both
you
of
asking
you.
me?
Yeah, well, either one.
I mean,
either
you
one.
could say, like, no, like, I made a dangerous hit, and in the moment, it's playoff hockey, and I wanted to finish a check. That wasn't really my intention to hurt him like that, but, it's the playoffs. Like, we were playing hard, and, unfortunately, like, I crossed the line, and just take acceptance for your hit, right? Like, I don't know what else you need to say. Like,
oh, that's good. It's well said right there. I was just,
like,
it's
his stick, I think, might have been in the air. It's like he stops, like, he charges down, like, he could have poke checked, he could have dove, like, in my head, there's 5-6 other things he probably could have done if he actually was trying to play the puck. So, you weren't trying to play the puck. Just admit it, I get it. Like, maybe it makes you seem more guilty, but at that point, it's like, the anvil's already down. Like, George has already made his ruling. Like, he had his 4-game suspension. It's like, there's not much you can do to alter that, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, Paul just answered for me, Tim. Okay?
Yeah, sorry.
And I'll tell you, the reason why I say that is because back in the day, I had a fight with Paul Baxter on the ice. He turtled on me. He cut me with his stick early in the game. And I got in the penalty box. And he said, I'm going to get you in the other eye. And he was yapping. And I had ripped his helmet off when I was trying to fight him. And I leaned down and I grabbed the puck out of the bucket of frozen pucks. I stood up and I rifled it right off his head. Okay? He went down. I cut him for 10 stitches, cut him open. And, what am I going to say? They bring me into Brian O'Neill. What am I going to say? I was throwing the puck to a fan. I rifled it right off his head. So I told the truth. I said I was pissed. He told me he's going to give me the stick in the other eye, and I got pissed off, and I threw the puck at him. I got 2-game suspension for that. Now I'd be under arrest. I'd probably still be in jail. But anyway, so yeah, that playoff run was incredible. What a feeling after, going through all the injuries, everything, and then you get through Winnipeg, and then you're going to go up against a big team, too, a team that's built for the playoffs. And, again, Habs had solid D, big D, that could handle a lot of that. But, boy, I was wondering how you guys were going to get through them. And then you get through Vegas. I was like, are you kidding me? So that confidence you built as a team, and now you're going to go up against the Stanley Cup champs in Tampa Bay. What was the feeling like going to the Stanley Cup final? Because to get there is one thing, but to win it's another. How was the team feeling going up against Tampa?
I mean, we're feeling good. Like, we're on such a high from beating Vegas. It's like you're not thinking any other way than, we can do this again. Like, it's 4 more wins, that's it. Obviously Tampa had a great goalie that can match up against Carey. They had great decor. They had, you know, elite players. Like, we knew it was going to be a tough challenge for us, but you know, we were confident in that series. And you know, even when I replay the series again, it's like that game 2 in Tampa. I think we outplayed them. I think every metric would say we outplayed them, and that was the game. I think Coleman scored like that diving goal with like 3 seconds left in the second period, and it felt like they stole that game. And it's like, if you just win game 2, then it's even. We split Montreal. They win in Tampa. Then it goes game 6 in Montreal, and you know, it's like Stanley Cup Finals game 6 in Montreal. Would the government have let us get more fans than 7,000? You know, would we have packed it? But it just felt like maybe there was no way we would have lost game 6, and then you go to game 7 on the road. But you know, you can't live in hindsight. You can't play like that. But that was the game where I'd say, like, stealing that game for Tampa, I think, won them the series, right? Because after that, they played a great game 3. They dominated us. They won that one. Then we had the big overtime win in game 4. But game 5 in Tampa, they won 1-0. Like, it's like they scored that one goal, and it's like they just held on for dear life. Like, they just played defense like I've never seen a team play defense before. It was crazy. Like, they're all pretty big. They, you know, and that's the experience of knowing how to win. They locked it down. They played everything perfect. They played it safe. They protected. We had no secondary chances. It was hard getting in the zone. Like, they were kind of trapped in the blue line so tight. And, you know, again, if we could have just got one goal at that game 5 and gone to overtime, like, maybe we could have, you know, snuck out a win. But I guess it just wasn't meant to be. But before the series, like, we were confident that we could get the job done. And you know, with the history of the team, being the underdog, the Montreal Canadiens, I felt like, is this going to be another chapter of the Canadiens' history? Are we going to be that team that, you know, was like 86 or 93, was a team that wasn't supposed to win and pulled it through? There was no reason not to believe that.
Yeah, no question. And it's unfortunate it didn't work out, but to get there, it was an incredible ride. It's great to experience that. And again, I look at back in '86, you mentioned it, and we went on this run, and I got to tell you, I can't imagine, honestly, now looking back, that we went that far and not won the Stanley Cup. I don't know. I'd still be questioning myself today. What could we have done different when I think about it? Because, you know, we got there, and after winning it, my thinking, we'll get back there next year. But it's so goddamn hard. People, I don't think people understand just how difficult it is to get a team to, you know, go the distance and then win it. It's extremely, to me, it's the hardest trophy in sports to win.
I think so. You have to go through 7-game series to win the cup, and every team loads up the trade deadline. Like, I don't know if you really see that in other sports. Teams really loading up and building their team like that. The grueling schedule, 82 games, and then the playoffs. And we all know playoff hockey is different. It's tougher. It's more physical. It's hard. It's a hard trophy to win. And like, I think a lot of guys, like, looking back now, like, we were in a low. Like, we were in a depression maybe. Like, I know I certainly was. It's like you dream your whole life about that moment. You dream your whole life about winning the cup, and in hockey, you know, you play, I was 33, I guess. It's like you play 13 years pro. It was like my 8th or 9th year in the NHL, and it's like, I hadn't really had any success in the playoffs, but, you know, like, was this it? Was that my only chance to win the cup? And it's gone. And then normally the playoffs would end like the first week of June, kind of. You have a little bit more time to prepare. Finishing like mid-July and then having to like just jump back into the season, like, that was really, really hard. It's like you had no time to kind of even grasp what had happened, no time to kind of get over it and move on. It was like, what do I do? Like, you got to recover and boom, get back to training, get back to being on the ice. Like, training camp was in 6 weeks. Like, it was really tough mentally, and you could see that in the team. You could see that we just weren't the same to start the year, and guys were mentally just exhausted from the year before. And when you're not 100% there mentally, the game is very, very difficult.
If you're like me and you're going to play some golf this summer, you have to check out this hidden gem. Windmill Heights sits atop the beautiful hills in Notre Dame de El Perot. They have affordable rates, and they offer customized membership opportunities for all levels. If you want to book a tea time, call 514-453-7177. Hit them straight. If you love your pet like I love my St. Bernard Adele, you'll want to feed them a balanced, biologically appropriate raw diet. The reason I've chosen Formula Raw is because all blends of their food are locally sourced and they consist of exclusively human-grade meat and organs, as well as fruits and vegetables. And all products used are hormone and antibiotic free. So like I said, if you love your pet like I love Adele, you'll choose Formula Raw. Make sure you go to formularaw.com and use the promo code RawKnux at checkout to receive 10% off your first order. That's RawKnux, RAWKNUX. So certainly the coach of that team no longer, Dominic Duchamp, no longer coaching in the NHL. Marty St. Louis comes in, and you being a veteran, what was that like? Because, you know, when I got here in Montreal, they won 4 cups in a row. They were going for number 5, and it was a team in transition. And, you know, I guess it was good for me coming in, but you know, it was a little frustrating for some. We had Larry and Bob Gainey. They were seeing all these superstar teammates and Ken Dryden and Lemaire leaving and this one leaving and that one leaving. So that dynasty team was kind of being disassembled, and this new blood was coming in. That was great for me. For them, it was a little difficult. But looking at what's going on here now, and you having a part of being a part of, you know, some good teams here, no question, having some good seasons, but never quite getting there. Then you get to the final, and now it looks, new general manager comes in, Gorton, Hughes are both here now. Marty comes in as coach. How promising does it look moving forward, one? And then two, being through that, you know, seeing all this new young blood come in and knowing that, geez, you know, this organization, this team is going in a different direction. How was that for you?
I think it's really encouraging. Like coming off the Cup Finals, like I think, you know, having the start to the year we did, and like I talked about the lows, it was like, it felt good. They had new people and new energy in the building. Like I felt like everyone, top to bottom, like you could probably interview everyone separately, and people have no idea like what that COVID year was like the sacrifice we all made for that year, that run, having to like kind of live in isolation all year away from kind of the public, getting tested every day, your family getting tested, like you're in the playoffs, the pressure of like, are you going to be the guy that like ruins your team's chance of winning the cup or something, you know, like just, it was mentally like exhausting for everybody. And we've had staff that ended up leaving because of that, and people taking leaves of absence, you know, for burnout and stuff. So to have Marty come in and bring that like fresh energy, like it was really great for the room. Adding Ken and Jeff, like I think, you know, having that duo, the team together, one guy taking care of one part and Ken taking care of the hockey, like I think it's really, really optimistic here in Montreal. We have a great young core, great young players and inside the organization already. You know, we have Caden, we have Arbor, we have, you know, Harris, and we just drafted Reinbacher, we got Cole, we got Nick, we got Slav. It's like, man, like in my mind, like it shouldn't be too long before our team is really good, really competitive, and I think this is a big year for the team. You know, there's no expectations obviously from the outside, but at a certain point, like you have to, you know, kind of get sick of losing. You have to kind of want to start winning, and this is a big year for the young core to kind of take the reins and really push. And you know, it wouldn't surprise me to see them get close this year. You know, I hope they make the playoffs. That should be your goal every single year. But no one expects that team to go to the playoffs, and that's kind of like the perfect storm for the young guys to maybe prove a lot of people wrong, kind of like we did in Calgary. But to me, there's kind of pieces almost everywhere in the organization you want for building your core of the future. You know, we drafted Dave to be a number one defenseman. We have Caden. Like I said, we got this great young nucleus of D-core, and to me, that's how you win the playoffs. Like having the goals, the scoring, that's all great. But to win in the playoffs, great defense makes the rest of the team better. It makes your goalie better, it makes your forwards better. You end up defending less as a team, and that's how the team's being built right now. And I think Habs fans should be really excited. It's in good hands right now.
I was just thinking, like when you said you get tested every day during the COVID
Every day
thing?
back in COVID. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
It was horrible.
jeez.
Yeah,
What would you do?
you
What would
know-
you do in cold? Like you didn't at the hotel. Would you guys just play video games or just hang out? Or
Well, like we'd had like those kind of big meeting rooms. Those were the only rooms you were allowed to hang out in. Other than that, like you had to be like in your own room, isolation. Like you weren't allowed to go eat. So like you could Uber Eats whatever your food in, but it was hard. Mentally, it was hard. Like the U.S., it was like COVID's not happening, and then you go to Montreal. It's a Saturday night game. You leave the Bell Center, and it looks like The Walking Dead outside. You know, it's a Saturday night, and there's not a car in the street. It was like it was weird. Like it was just weird. There's no fans. It was hard getting up for the games. It was hard when you're tired, or mentally, you traveled and you gotta kind of, the fans pick you up sometimes. Like you make that big hit or you get that goal and it's like, oh yeah, you got the energy, you got the juices flowing. There was none of that. Like it was a tough year, and yeah, it was draining. It was draining, but at the same time, I think it let the new guys come to the team and really get acclimated to everybody. Like we didn't travel after games like we used to and go to new cities. You'd stay in Vancouver, you'd play your 3 games. You'd stay in Calgary, you'd play your 3 games. You go to Edmonton, so it's like all those nights you end up in the hotel, all hanging out together, have a couple beers, and kind of made our team grow really close together. We had some fun nights there, and you just do your best to make the most of it. But yeah, you're locked in the hotel. It was kind of like white collar jail.
Yeah. Listen, we did it in the playoffs back in the day. That 86, we would stay in a hotel the day before the game, all that. And we felt like we were like, what the hell are you doing to us? And yeah. I actually liked it. I didn't mind the night before the game. We weren't locked in the whole time. So I could only imagine how difficult it was. I remember going in, I went to a couple games, and just the atmosphere. The Canadians certainly, they try to really spice up the atmosphere. And during that Vegas series, I remember going in, the blunder that the goaltender made, and you guys end up taking advantage and winning that game. I was at that game, but I think the Canadians did one hell of a job of really trying to pipe the noise in there for you guys. How difficult? Like, listen, you got to focus, you got to get ready to play yourself, but without that crowd interaction, how difficult was that?
It was hard. It was hard. Like rewinding to like the summer before, we had like the playoff bubble in the hotel. That was hard because the first exhibition game against Toronto before we started against Pittsburgh, it was like they didn't have the fake crowd noise. They didn't have anything, and it was just dead. It was like 2 teams out there for a practice. No emotion, no atmosphere, no energy, like just a dead game. And I remember thinking like, this is going to be the worst playoffs ever. Like it just didn't have that emotion. And then sure enough, you get 20 competitive people all trying to kill each other. And we know what's on the line. Like I think the hockey ended up being pretty good actually, but it was hard. It was hard. You couldn't really feed off the crowd. You had to find ways to fuel yourself, through your teammates, energy on the bench, kind of just getting in the game, being in the game, and yeah, it was weird. Like you said, though, the team did a great job against Vegas. It felt like the first 2 series, like when Game 6 Toronto came, I think we were allowed 5,000 fans. Like that was a huge boost because to go from 0 all year to getting just that amount of people and have fans are passionate, especially against the Leafs, like it was a huge boost. Yeah. Then it was a bit more against Winnipeg. Then it was a bit more against Vegas, and they did a really good job with the sound, the lighting. So it felt a lot fuller than what it was. But compared to what we were used to all year, like it was great.
That sounds awful.
Just
hearing the coach all game, like skate.
You could hear like drop. Like it was super weird. Yeah.
Oh man.
How about? And I hope you don't mind me asking, but I want to ask. What that was like for you when they come in and say you have to be vaccinated or you're going to lose your job?
Well,
I'm curious, one, how you felt about that. Two, if you weren't playing hockey, would you have done something different?
well, at the time for us, it was like you either do it or you don't play in the playoffs. So,
Right.
like, as a hockey player, it's just like you didn't even think twice. You just do it. Our second vaccination was right like 3 days before we left to go to Las Vegas, or a week before. I forget what it was because we had swept Winnipeg. I don't know what the timing was, but listen, like, I was getting hip injections. Like, here, take this Celebrex for 3 months straight. Here, do this. Like, you do everything you can to play the game. Like, you're not going to not play the game for a vaccination, you know?
Yeah.
So you didn't even think about it. So then by then you were just done. The guys who didn't play in the playoffs, or the players who played on teams that didn't, like, they obviously were in a different mindset than the rest of us. If I wasn't in the NHL as just a regular person, would I have done stuff differently? Like, I don't know. Like, I felt like in Quebec, like, you didn't really have a choice. Like, they made life really, really tough if you didn't, you know? Like, if you wanted to do anything, you had to get vaccinated. So, you know, you didn't, like, if you live in the U.S., maybe I wouldn't have done it. Like, I don't know. But here in Canada, like, there was no real choice on it. And, you know, it's still, like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you talk with the doctors. I was on the PA calls with you know, Isaac Bogosh, the head of the, you know, the disease stuff. And all these people go to school for 15, 20, 30 years. They dedicate their whole life studying this stuff. And me, I'm just a hockey player.
Yeah.
I was trusting the doctors that they were giving me the best information possible. And like I do getting a medical report, or like I do before surgery for an opinion, you trust that they're telling you the truth. And I'm pretty confident in what they told me. And I don't think twice about it.
Cool. So you finish the finals, you come back, you have a difficult time last season, obviously, with injuries. It looks as though, well, you don't have a contract. You know, you've talked about wanting to stay with this organization. And quite frankly, I see a lot of guys who retire from hockey that want to stay in hockey and work in hockey. I certainly think you're one that deserves that, and would not so much deserves it, but someone who can make a difference with younger players. There's no question about it in my mind. You know, I've heard you speak in front of the rookies. You set a great example. You had some great words. You talked about doing everything. You'll do anything from, you know, kill a penalty to sit on the bench to, you know, pass out water bottles, whatever. I love what you said to those players. How's it looking for you? You can't play anymore, basically, right? You're done.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's like official. You know, the teams, obviously, the doctors told me that. It's like I've had a couple different mixed opinions in different visits. And
how do you feel? Health.
I mean, it's like I played softball last night, so not very much activity. And
you
know,
didn't slide into second, you mean?
No, there's no slide. I slid once, and I regretted that.
What position were you playing?
Like,
were you pitching?
No, I play outfield. It's like Baldone, so like you pitch to your own team, and I think it's super dangerous. You got that little cage, but man, like, I don't want to get hit by the ball. Like, guys hit hard. I wake up today like a little bit sore. You're like me. I'm just so used to people telling me, "Oh, you can't. Oh, you can't. Oh, you're done." Oh, it's like I have a hard time changing my mentality, and I just hope one day I wake up and, wow, like I feel great again, or I feel normal, or I feel like I can push myself to get to a place where maybe I can start training to be an NHLer again. And it's like, to not have that hope anymore, like, it just feels like it goes against who I am. And, you know, maybe at a certain point I finally realize it, or my mind finally says, oh, like start listening to these guys, like, they're right, they have the experience, they know everything, and stop being kind of naive and thinking that you can just do it one more time, like maybe it's it. But I haven't got there yet mentally, so there's no formal decision for anything. if I wanted to go play somewhere, like obviously there's lots of places you can play outside the NHL, and that's kind of what makes the decision hard is do I want to keep playing hockey? Could I go play 20 games, 30 games anymore? And if I had that yes answer, I'd probably sign somewhere, and I just don't. And it's hard. Mentally, it's hard. It's like I just want more clarity, and maybe it's clear and I'm just not seeing it that way, but like I still want to play. I still want to be in the game. I still want to be a hockey player. So it's hard not thinking that way, but if I'm not a hockey player, I'd certainly love the opportunity to help the young guys do something within player development or coaching hockey. I don't know if I have a desire to be an NHL coach or American League coach or anything like that, but I certainly had a good time coaching my son's team and being involved as an assistant coach. And it's fun. It's fun to pass on your knowledge to the kids. And I think I have a lot of experience at different levels and different organizations and battle through a lot. So I feel like if I can help a couple kids and help them and maybe help them grow, it'd be great.
So, looking at that whole thing, and certainly I mentioned that a lot of guys love to work with team, and you certainly have what it takes. I just knowing you as a player and as a person, the times I've heard you speak and the way you handle yourself, I think it'd be awesome, especially looking at this young group and this young core the Canadians have moving forward. When we look at that team moving forward and all these young kids, these draft picks coming in, and you said, they might be fighting for a spot this year. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but I believe that they're going to be right in there. They're going to be close.
Yeah, they're going to be competitive.
They're going to compete, no question. Oh, yeah. They got younger, and there's going to be more young guys coming in this year. What do you think for these young guys coming in? What's the biggest learning curve for them? These young guys coming in the NHL, coming into this situation here in Montreal.
You got to be great every day. Yeah. I think that's the hardest thing as a young player to learn. Montreal, the cameras are on every day. Every single practice, there's media, there's people watching you, dissecting you, there's TV shows. And you're not really paying attention to that as a player. I get that, but they're there. They're talking about it. The coaches, the GM, they watch you every day. Like some coaches tape the practices and go back and rewatch, and you might not think it as a player, but that little pass that you messed up or that system drill that you were in the right spot at the right time, like you're not showing confidence in the coach by not getting those things right. Like execution every single day matters. Going to the gym and doing the workout every day matters. Weighing in, doing everything right matters. Like just being consistent every day gives you the best chance to be a great NHLer. And not every young guy has that or had to be like that. And maybe in junior there was those nights where, you were off a little bit, but you still got 2-3 points, so everything's pretty good. Like it doesn't really work like that in the NHL. And that's different. So moving forward, the young guys, they have to get into great habits young and really start building that work ethic every day to be great every day, and knowing that, even when you're not feeling good, you still have to show up, you still have to work, you still have to execute every day, and stay away from the distractions that Montreal can provide you some nights, right? I mean, you have a great Saturday night game, you score a goal, your first star, you have a couple beers, the girls are, they know who you are, and you have a great time, but you go to bed late Sunday and you have to wake up Monday morning and go to practice. Are you going to be good in practice Monday morning and get back to work because you're not happy? You want your good game to be every game, or are you just satisfied I had a good game and the next one will be easy too? And maybe your goal's 85% or 95%, or maybe you're not all mentally there. Those are the challenges of a young guy playing in the city, because when you're an older guy with the family, you're probably not going out to the bar. You go home, you go to sleep, and then you have your kids the next day. But that's the challenge here, and for a lot of the guys here, I think they're going to handle it. They handle it well, and Marty and the coaching staff do a great job of taking care of the young guys. So I'm not too worried.
What would you say to an AHL guy that's trying to get called up? What would you say to him?
Well, same thing, man. Like, you're always 1, 2, 3 game streak away from a call up. Like, in the NHL, like, everything's about roles. Like, there's no sense of calling in the top player to go play in the fourth line. Like, they might need an energy guy, a fourth line guy, a penalty kill guy. So be great in your role every day in the American League. You're always one call up away. Like, you look at Alex Belzil and what he was able to do here, and I think he got a one-way deal with the Rangers. Like, how do you not look at that and be like, wow, like, that could be me? Like, it doesn't matter what you did the year before, the year before, year before. You're always one call up away, so stay with it. Keep your focus. Be good, be reliable, and when Marty calls down to the coach and in Laval and he says, hey, I need the guy for this, maybe it's your name that gets thrown in the hat, and that's it. That's your chance. So always know that that's a possibility, and stick with it.
Good advice. There's no question about it. And one thing I forgot to talk to you about and mention, and I wanted to get your thoughts and feelings about what happened when you fought Mackenzie Weegar. Now, you're not a guy that was known for fighting. Certainly not a guy that shied away from anything on the ice. But that night, I remember I was there, and Christ, I felt bad for you. He hit you with a good shot, no question. But how difficult was that for you to get over that and get through that? Because that's not an easy thing when that happens to a guy. And I've seen, honestly, when I've fought everybody, I've watched fights left and right. When I see a hockey player get hurt in a fight, it bothers me. It does. I've seen Proby get knocked out by Todd Ewan. I've seen Todd Fedoruk got his face crushed by Bugard. And then I seen him get knocked out by Orr on the ice, and it sickens me. How tough was that on you? And after you got hit with that shot, to bounce back and beat Paul Byron?
I mean, it happened at the end of the year. I think, like, the worst part was missing a couple games leading up to the playoffs. Like, that hurt me more than getting punched in the face. Like.
Did you have a concussion from that though, or did you? Yeah. And
I mean,
did that last?
He knocked me out pretty good. I mean, I knew going into that game, like, I knew he was going to fight me, and.
What was that over, by the way? Yeah, you knew he was going to fight you. Why? What did you guys have a problem before?
Well, I hit him, and I mean, I got suspended 3 games, and I play hard. I can be like a pest out there. I get that, but like, I feel like I always play a clean game. Like, that bothered me, that hit. Like, I didn't mean to hurt him like that. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to get suspended. I was just trying to finish a check. I came in so fast. I was coming on a power play breakout, and like, I'm not on the power play very often. Like, I was trying to make the most of my fucking chance on the power play. And I cream him, and I'm going to the box, and like, the guy's hurt, and I felt terrible. And like, it's like the code in hockey. Like, it was a dirty play. I knew he was probably going to beat me up. He's way bigger than me, but like, I didn't want a teammate to come in and have to like fight my battle, or I didn't want the game to get dirty, because sometimes when that happens, like, cheap stuff can happen in the game. So I figured, just answer the bell, fight him, tie up his arm, and take a couple punches, go to the box, and it's done. Like, that was the intention. And unfortunately, like, I didn't get a good grab. His arm got loose, and he hit me with a good one. But it was the end of the year. We only had a few games left, so I missed a couple key games, and that stung me more than the punch, I'd say. Like, we missed the playoffs by 1 point, and it's like, if I would have played 1 or 2 games more, just, does your team get in? So mentally, that was a harder challenge.
I hear you.
I had all summer to get better, recover, and going into the next year, like, I was fine. Like, I wasn't going to go picking fights with any more guys that were 6'2", 220 anymore, I'll tell you that. But, it's part of the game sometimes. Like you said, I play with McGrattan and some tough guys, and I've seen guys get knocked out. Like, it sucks. Some of the toughest guys I know get knocked out. It happens. It just takes one punch, and, that's the repercussion sometimes of dropping the gloves, and you know that as a hockey player, and it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you were able to
you
get
never
through
got
that.
knocked. You never got knocked out.
No,
It's because you
Thank
got a cement
God.
head.
Cement head. Yeah. No, I could take a punch, and I actually, what Paul talked about tying guys up, you had to. There's so many big guys out there back then. It's like even now, but I was fighting Dave Brown or Semenko or this one or that. Some big boys, and you have to fight smart to get through it. It's not easy. I had to develop a strategy to fight those guys, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have lasted. There's just no way. You can't just stand there and go toe to toe every night and think you're gonna systematically go through every guy in the league. Yeah, you have to have a bit of a plan, and I certainly did. I adjusted some things as I went on, and it helped me last as long as I did, 13 years. So, like Paul, 13 years, right, Paul?
Yep.
Pro hockey, 13 years. Listen, Paul Byron, you've been awesome to have you on today. I really appreciate it. And I hope, I really do for you, that there's a place in this organization for you moving forward, whether it's as a player or in player development, because I certainly think you're a guy that could help this organization either on the ice or off, no question about it. So I appreciate it. I wish you nothing but the best moving forward.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right.
That was well said, Knux. I'm with Knux on that, man. We're rooting for you, and thanks for coming on for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me out, guys. It was great.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.